Hey there, I'm Emily, also known as the Drone Angel, and welcome back to your one-stop shop for everything drone related. Today, I'll be proving that you don't have to gift yourself a new drone just because it's a holiday release. In other words, I'll be comparing the new Mavic 3 Cine to two of DJI's popular drone models, the Mavic Air 2S and the Mavic 2 Pro. At the same time as I'm debunking your shopping cravings, I'll be proving that the seemingly small upgrades can actually make or break your droning experience in some circumstances. It really goes both ways. There are unique benefits and drawbacks to each drone, and which is best for you will ultimately depend on your situation and your needs. Drone piloting is a personal matter in many ways, and purchasing new drones is just another example of that. But before we get started, please take a moment and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on drone news and tips. In order to show you guys a complete picture of what these drones are and are not capable of, I'll be scoring them out of 5 based on a few different factors, including battery life, price, video quality, weight, design, and sensors. Each drone will be able to win up to 25 points. Now, being able to work quickly is a rite of passage for flying drones professionally. Even the best drones on the market don't top 35 minutes of battery life, so every minute counts. My last drone job of 2021 was pretty spectacular. I wish I could share photos from it, but I had to sign an NDA, but I'll try to describe as best as I can. I was hired to capture drone footage of a glamorous day party on a beach in the desert.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, I said that right. A beach in the desert. It was a man-made beach in the middle of this beautiful, huge, sprawling estate. Now, it was still pretty hot outside, and I had to maximize each flight in the air, especially when it came to capturing footage of the birthday girl. I knew I only had a few minutes of getting solo shots of the birthday girl while the ground photographer was posing her, but I didn't know when that would be. Thankfully, with my Mavic 3 Cine, I was able to stay up for a long period of time without worrying about having to land it early. I started capturing footage about 300 feet high and then swooped in and captured footage of the birthday girl. I was pretty stoked about how much I was able to capture with a single battery. The Mavic 3 Cine supposedly has up to 46 minutes of flight time, and the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2S have 31 minutes. But drones or otherwise, you can never take company claims on battery life at face value. Let's be real. Nail polish, deodorant, the batteries in your TV, the remote, you name it. It'll probably never last as long as the package says it will. With drones, the battery life equation is further complicated by wind conditions. Flying upwind will always lower the expected battery life because your drone needs to fight harder to fly against the wind. This is very relevant with smaller or weaker drones like the Air 2S. Keeping that in mind, I put the trio to the test. The Mavic 3 Cine flew for about 37 minutes, but there was some wind. The Mavic 2 Pro flew for about, 26 minutes, and the Mavic Air 2S flew for about, 24 minutes. Now, based on these results, the Mavic 3 Cine earns 5 stars, the Mavic 2 Pro gets 4, and the Air 2S gets 3 stars. As much as I'd love to ignore the price tags, it wouldn't be fair to leave price out of the picture. The Air 2S costs $999 new from the DJI website, which is way cheaper than the Mavic 2 Pro cost of $1,650. But despite the price difference, these two drones aren't actually that different in terms of their features and their specs. The Mavic 3 Cine does include upgrades and features that the other two drones don't have, but it just can't compete price-wise. It's only available for purchase as a bundle for $4,999, and even the regular Mavic 3 is listed as $2,199. Based on these differences, I'd rate the Mavic Air 2S at 5 stars, the Mavic 3 Cine at 3 stars, and the Mavic 2 Pro at 4 stars. If cost is the biggest factor for you to consider, then the Mavic Air 2S is a no-brainer. Now, DJI loves hyping up its new drones, but I always have to question just how much of a difference there really is between the cameras of each model. At face value, the Mavic 3 Cine has better specs than the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2S. Where the Mavic 2 Pro has 4K at 30 frames per second, the Mavic 3 Cine has 5.1K at 50 frames per second and 4K at 120 frames per second. The Air 2S has something of a middle ground at 4K at 60 frames per second. Now, as for the sensors and the lenses, the Mavic 3 Cine has a 4/3 sensor with a 24mm f2.8 to f11 lens. The Mavic 2 Pro has a 1-inch sensor and 28mm f2.8 to f11. And the Mavic Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor with a 22mm f2.8 lens. In most basic applications, there isn't much visible difference between the quality of the three. With good lighting, great locations, and content intended to be shrunk down anyway for social media, you can't really tell the difference. Still, there are situations where those small differences make a huge impact on quality. For example, the Mavic 2 Pro can shoot at 120 frames per second for slow-mo content, but the quality nosedives to 1080p. You can really see the difference in quality for yourself here. The Mavic 3 also has notably better low-light capability than the other two drones. Now, if you're shooting at 4K at 60 frames per second, then the Mavic Air2S is the best, but I don't like how there's a fixed aperture. That's why I'm giving it a lower rating. This isn't ideal for the typical videographer that wants total control over the exposure, but it's not a deal breaker necessarily since I'm often shooting at 2.8 anyways. Now, the Mavic 3 Cine does have better camera quality, but only in certain applications. I believe the telephoto lens can be improved to capture more crisp content, so it gets 4 stars, while the Mavic 2 Pro gets 3 stars, and the Mavic Air 2S also gets 3 stars. The Mavic Air 2S is the smallest and lightest drone out of the 3. It's a clear winner in portability. Now, it's worth mentioning that the design of the Mavic 3 and the Mavic 3 Cine has been improved to reduce air drag by 35%. According to DJI, the new design will result in higher speeds and better battery life. As an added bonus, the Mavic 3 charges with a USB cable, which might leave more room for other important goodies in your bag, like, a pair of sunglasses, or for me, snacks. The Mavic 2 Pro isn't as small and portable as the Air 2S, and it doesn't have the same design upgrades like the Mavic 3 Cine, making its design features somewhat irrelevant compared to the others. So I'll give the Air 2S a rating of 5 stars, the Mavic 3 Cine 4 stars, and the Mavic 2 Pro an unfortunate 2 stars. Obstacle detection is a valuable feature that can keep your very expensive drone safe from harm. Sensors for obstacle detection are often included in all of the drones we're looking at, but the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 3 Cine have better detection. In theory, these drones should have similar obstacle detection capability. In practice though, the Mavic 2 Pro can only use side obstacle avoidance in tripod mode and active track. The new and improved sensor system on the Mavic 3 Cine puts it ahead of the pack, and I'll award it 5 stars to reflect that. The Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2S get 4 and 3 stars respectively. All in all, the Mavic 3 Cine has better overall performance than both the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2S. You shouldn't write off these other drones though as not worth it if they fit your situation, but the Mavic 3 has real advantages too big to ignore. Here are the totals for those curious about how everything stacks up. Drum roll. Mavic 3 Cine has 21 out of 25 stars, the Mavic Air 2S has 19 out of 25 stars, and the Mavic 2 Pro has 17 out of 25 stars. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, the biggest compliment to me is if you could share it with someone else that would also enjoy it. Of course, hit subscribe to stay up to date on drone news and tips. If you're interested, I also do online educational consulting and hands-on workshops where I teach you how to fly over whales and dolphins. More information is on my website and in the links below. I'll see you in the next video.